Here's how my confidence left from a 3 on 10 to a 9 on 10. I leave the space of 1 because self-doubt comes sometimes, some insecurities that I haven't moved on from yet, and self-improvement for the future. I don't exactly think that somebody can be 10 on 10, always confident, never feeling insecure about anything. But if you think that you can, please spill the tea. Let me know how. I'm open to learning. But mine entered a 10 and it still works for me. As a young girl growing up, especially in an African community, having confidence is something which I feel is very relevant and important to your self-growth, because we tend to have a lot of standards, maybe not just the African community, but everywhere. There are always standards which are placed. You need to be curvy, you need to be soft, you need to be a homemaker. And sometimes we are not exactly that. We don't exactly meet up to the standards. And because we do not, we tend to have a lot of self-doubt, inferiority complex, and sometimes it leads to self-hatred. We tend to hate ourselves because of how we look or how we are so different from these standards. But for me, growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I knew that confidence is very relevant in this field. I always just had this instinct in me telling me fashion designers are 100% confident. So it always made me to keep my confidence in check. And also thanks to the environment where I came from, my parents are very encouraging to the kids. They always compliment us, always teach us that we are enough. And I had really pretty but amazing sassy siblings. You know those siblings that they love to insult you, but not in a bad way, about maybe that one thing that you do not like about yourself, and you just need to build up this self-defense that keeps you always in check. Before they want to even say the word or say something you feel bad about yourself, you already have your defense. So this actually helped a lot in building my confidence. I don't know about other people, but it really helped me. But everything was okay while growing up until I reached my teenage age and I had a lot of acne on my face. At the beginning of this period in my life, everything was not as bad because I was going to school, and in my school we could wear clothes. So even if my face didn't cut it, I always wore clothes that would make me look pretty. So even if my face is not nice, I'll still hang on to the fact that my dress is nice. I still look good. But the turning point came in when my family and I had to transfer from where I grew up for a very long time, made friends, had my whole life in that area. We had to go to a completely strange place. I had no friends in this area. I didn't know what the people were like. I didn't even know the language of that place, but we had to move there due to my father's work. The first challenge I had was that we never had to wear clothes anymore. I had to start wearing uniforms. And the uniform at that time, oh, terrible. They will make us wear a whole set of socks, full socks, and a gown or a skirt. And the girls who did not braid their hair had to give it low cut, the whole low cut. So my whole face could easily show, because at least if my hair was high, or if I had higher cut, the face couldn't show that much. So the whole acne was so visible. At this point, I used to feel so bad about it. In fact, waking up every morning to go to school was kind of a big deal for me. It had to take me a lot of motivation to go to school. And the kids, they were not as nice too, because sometimes they would tend to make fun of the fact that I had acne. But then, them making fun about the fact I had acne didn't cause me a lot of problems, because, like I said, when you have siblings that love to capitalize on the things you're not good at, you get to build that self-defense. But it became really bad when I started to feel not enough because of how I looked. And I realized that is because at this time, I based a lot of my confidence on how I looked like, how I appeared, and how many people complimented me. It's not a bad place to base your confidence, but for me, that is a temporary source. It's not exactly long lasting. And I grew up with this thought in my mind that as long as I'm physically okay, I'm confident enough. It was until I met somebody who really came in as a turning point in my life. This person got to see me beyond how I looked physically and dwelt so much on how I was inward. And it just gave me that pause. it made me think that what is about me that this person finds so intriguing, which is not about my physical. So it made me start thinking, what is Kendra more of than her physical? I got into knowing myself better, and I fell in love with a lot of things about myself from inside. Now, I'm not saying that outer beauty doesn't matter, but for me, you're not just outward beauty, you're also inward beauty. The two go together. So if you feel that something about you physically is not good enough and you can work on it. But if you feel that is something you cannot work on it, then focus more on what you already are good at or what is nice about you. Now, that's my take on that. So after that stage in my life, I actually did improve on my confidence a lot. It left from maybe that 3 to about a 6. But then the main challenge started when I moved out from my parents' house. The family was no longer there to take care of my confidence or the people that I knew. I had to move to this completely strange area. People did not know me. And when people come from different backgrounds, they have different opinions about the same thing. They tend to see maybe that side you love so much about yourself. They get to see it as a disadvantage, and maybe vice versa. So at this point, I still had to ask myself, how do I get full confidence about who I am? But being the Christian girl that I am, I always go back to God each time I find myself confused. So I believe that nobody knows a creation better than its creator. So if God created me, he's most likely to know me better. So I went to God and I asked him that he should tell me who I am from his perspective, from his lens. How does he actually see me? And because of it, right around that time, I came across the story of the Israelites. Well, that the Israelites were quite stubborn. They always had this circle of falling into sin, getting captured, and God sending a judge to save them. So this period of time, they got captured and they had to be saved. So God chose a judge who was left-handed. And this king was actually very powerful. He had a lot of guards and a very great army. So getting by this army was kind of a difficult task. But it was easier for this guy, not just because he had God on his side, but because of one thing. He was left-handed, and I'll explain why. So when he finally had the opportunity to get an audience with the king, while talking, the king was actually quite fat too. He has a very big stomach. This was also a detail that was written. And he had guards around him, but he was fat. So the guy had the audience with the king, and then he could quickly draw out his sword. Because it was with his left hand, nobody saw it coming. So he easily just stabbed the king. And because the king was fat with a very big stomach, the sword just quickly buried inside the king's stomach. And, he bled to death. And then the Israelites were saved and they were out of captivity. The story ends there. What I got from this story was that every detail about ourselves plays a huge role to our purpose. If that guy wasn't left-handed and probably was right-handed, when he was about to draw out the sword, a lot of people could see it and probably attack him. And before you know it, he's dead. The purpose, nothing has been accomplished. The Israelites will still be captured. But then because he was left-handed, nobody saw it coming. And if the king was, having a lot of six-packs and things like that, he could have had maybe a certain level of resistance, which could have also been a little bit slow to the purpose. But it was perfectly done because he was left-handed and because the king was fat. And it's not just their story. When we read across, we get to see how tiny detail of how the person looked or certain behaviors of the person participated in their role, in their purpose. Like the king Saul, because he was slightly taller than everybody, Samuel could easily notice him. David, because he was the youngest boy, nobody could trust him. Nobody saw that he could become a great king. Because he was the youngest boy too, he was always left to attend to the sheep, and because he was attending to the sheep, he developed a certain level of courage to be able to fight Goliath at the end of the day. You can always read the story to know how, because Mary was a virgin, because a lot of things, a lot of people, and how the slight details plays a huge role in their purpose. So it made me realize that a lot of things which God has created on me plays a huge role in his purpose for me. Okay. And That's what makes me perfect. The fact that every slight detail makes Kendra and makes her perfect for what she has been created for. When I got to realize this, it really, really boosted my confidence. It made me see all these standards as just cages, or I don't think standards are exactly bad. I don't think it's a bad thing, truly. But then it becomes a problem where standards start making you feel bad about yourself. And to be honest, if you feel that these standards are necessary for you, like if you feel that you're bad, that you're thick, if you feel bad that you're not good at something and you know you can improve, then improve. But if you realize that to improve means you should change who you are completely, then I think that that's where the problem is. And when I got to realize this story, it really, really changed my perspective on confidence. It really changed my perspective on who I am. It made me look at myself from a totally different lens, and this actually was the source of my confidence. So each time I find myself trying to self-doubt or enter into inferiority complex because I've seen somebody who is better, I just remind myself that you have been made perfectly like this for your purpose. Now, to make this more relatable, firstly, like I said, if you can improve on yourself, improve on yourself. If you know that improving means changing who you are, then I think you should start learning to fall in love with yourself. Okay? You are you, and the best person who can know you after God is you. So focus more on learning about yourself and loving yourself more. And secondly is, standards are put in place, and just because you don't fall into the standards doesn't make you any less. Okay, you're just uniquely created for your unique purpose, which only you can accomplish. And here is something that I think it might not be agreeable to everybody, but don't lie to yourself. If you don't find yourself attractive, don't lie to yourself. Do not force it. Do not intentionally look at yourself in the mirror. You don't find yourself pretty, but you're lying to yourself that you're pretty just to boost your confidence. Instead, take those things you see about yourself and just fall in love with it. And stop focusing so much on what you're not up to, what you're not good at. Focus more on what you're good at, okay? And most especially, do not compare yourself. That person is that person, you are you. Focus more on the unique side of yourself. Stop comparing. That person you're comparing yourself to also has an insecurity, but the only difference might be that she quickly flaunts herself, she confidently flaunts herself. Meanwhile, you are drowning in self-doubt and self-inferiority complex because you have chosen to focus a lot on what you are not, or what you're not good at, or your insecurities. Okay, so do not compare yourself. You are you. And also, turn to see yourself from God's lens. Turn to see yourself from the Creator's lens, okay? There is this word that I really love, which is masterpiece. You have been a created masterpiece. A masterpiece means that you were carefully put in place bit by bit to be formed. You were not rushly made. You were not mistakenly made, like some people will say. You were carefully put in place to become that person, to become what you look like physically, to become that personality physically. Okay, you're a masterpiece. So turn to see yourself from the Creator's lens. I mean, that person is big, he's a king. And if he's telling you you're beautiful, you don't trust her. Why are you not trusting it? No, tell me, why are you not trusting it? And lastly, which I think is very relevant to your confidence, is improve on yourself. Improve on yourself, because sometimes we tend to tell ourselves that you are okay, you are perfectly made, you are just like that. You see somebody is not looking so presentable all the time, and he's like, this is me. Improve on yourself, honestly. And when you improve on yourself, you get to see a better version of you, okay? Because even though you were made, you're supposed to take care of that person that you are. I'm not just talking about physically. I'm talking about even your character. If you know that you have disrespect inside you, improve on yourself. Take away that disrespect so you'll be able to love yourself more. Be very open to improving. Be very open to, developing yourself. But just make sure that these improvements are not the ones that lead to you changing yourself. Now, to me, that's where it's all wrong. So we have come to the end of this session, and I hope that you got to learn one or two things from my experience. And I hope that my experience can open more conversations. I'm open to learning from other people. Are you confident about yourself? What do you feel insecure about yourself? How are you dealing with that? Let's just talk. This is open mic, and it's open for everybody's opinion. And I really enjoy listening to you guys talk.